Running It Back Halloween Edition Part 2 is up and ready. Part 1 we covered the good, the Blair Witch Project. Part 2, covering the bad, Practical Magic. That's right. Andrew joins me again on the screen. We take a deep dive into Practical Magic. Did you see this movie? I did. It's all over the place. But that didn't stop us from doing a deep dive, figuring out what the hell was going on with this movie. Was it watchable? Were there any enjoyable parts? Was it scary? Important question to ask. Well, we find out all that. Practical Magic, the bad portion of our Halloween edition of Running It Back. Let me sum it up for you. 2 sisters kill a guy. They may be witches. That's all you need to know. Practical Magic Part 2 right now. Practical Magic. I don't think we could have picked a better bad movie to nominate. Okay, premise in my own words. 2 sisters raised by witches kill a guy accidentally, bring him back, and need the help of the whole town to fix it. That's my premise in my own words.
That's even that does it a little too much justice for just what a piece of shit that movie is. I couldn't even it's just so boring, man, and it just doesn't do anything for me. It's got like a very live, love, laugh vibe to it, where it's just it feels like it was shot in a Pier 1 Imports, warehouse. She owns a lotion shop or something like that, and she's just got 4 employees that just walk around the lotion shop and just dust off a jar or something like that, just doesn't make any sense, so it feels very fake. It feels very put on, and then the whole aspect of just the Shania Twain coming over the soundtrack and all of
a lot of heavy use of music,
super classic soft rock songs that just come on, just give it this dumb music video vibe or whatever. So I really don't like it for those reasons. And then I don't like movies where they're got the fucking kid versions of themselves that lead into the adult versions like that. So the first 15 minutes are just them as kids, in the house where they grow up with the witches and stuff. And it just all really rubbed me the wrong way, man. I didn't like the way they're just eating chocolate all the time. And it's these little grubby kids with chocolate all over them. And they're all fucked up. It was creepy. I didn't like they're wearing angel wings at one point.
The 2 little girls.
I just wanted to wash my hands of it. I got really creeped out watching that movie. I was like, this is just disgusting, So
yeah, they made a point to say multiple times that witches, as little girls, eat brownies and cupcakes for breakfast.
Ew.
They make it a point, and then they're raised by these 2 old biddies. That's just sort of by all intents and purposes, just hang around the house and fuck around with witches spells.
Right.
That's all these 2 chicks do. And
man, I really would have loved Child Protective Services to bust in there and just be this is wrong. We got to get these girls out of here.
Another thing with the kids that I hate in movies is say the kid is the witch or whatever, and somehow the other kids know it, and they're exceptionally mean to the little kid, and they call her, she's a witch, and they ostracize her. Right. I never think kids would be that cruel to another kid. So that always does seem put upon. The only thing I liked about the movie is that it did seem like a good music video. They were hammering the good chick rock, dude, in this movie, and it looked good. The scenery looks good. Just has nothing to offer.
Right.
After that.
It's very smooth. The scenery is very Hallmark Channel. It just feels Hallmark to me,
Yeah, that's a good way. The music choices are good. It's just Hallmark.
Yeah,
movie
choices. It's
very
a vibe.
VH1.
I don't even know. It might not even count as a horror movie per se. It might just be a kind of funky, romantic comedy with witches in it, you know?
Hmm.
Because yeah, it was a little ridiculous, but
Well,
it
it's
was the 90s,
22%.
you know? It was the 90s.
1998. Yep.
Yeah.
We're at the tail end of, yeah, that sort of movie era of like crazy action movies, outlandish romantic comedies.
Hmm.
It's 22% on Rotten Tomatoes, so we're not alone.
Okay.
It's based on the novel by the same name as well.
Mm.
So it might have been thrown together a little quick just to get this movie out there. Um, Scare factor. What do you give it? Scare factor 1 to 10?
Let me think. Scare factor. This baby's gonna come in at a 1.5 for me. This
I
has
gave it a,
low scare factor in my opinion.
what was the, I gave it a 2. Scariest scene, I gave it to when Nicole Kidman is possessed and they kind of have to exorcise her body. A good exorcism scene, I give it the 2 for that. That was halfway decent for half a second or two.
Yeah. That's a good part. The part that just kind of made me sick to my stomach that I found pretty scary was the part where they're drinking all the tequila and they don't know that it's drugged yet. And they're like
Oh
sharing
yeah.
that story when they're having like it's kind of like their little witches like midnight society. When they're drinking all that tequila, like I actually started to like feel like I was drinking all that tequila too. And then when you find out that it's like the laced bottle, I was like, oh man, that was like nice. I was like, that was a nice little twist right there. I was wondering where
Mm.
this was gonna go. That was weird. There was a whole because that whole movie is like a nightmare, man. It's just really weird and like it's hard to follow it because like it's almost
Yeah,
like
I
the
didn't know what the
tone,
point
like
of it.
the tone changes all the time, dude. Like you don't know what direction it's gonna go in.
Yeah,
Like,
it
dude, like the kidnapping scene comes out of nowhere, man.
right.
When Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock get kidnapped, like that was the last thing I was expecting to happen right there. And then like they end up killing him. And then well, I don't want to get ahead of us too much, but like there's like a major issue with that part too that I couldn't get past either. So
Yeah,
all in all, that movie's got problems, man.
if we're trying to put it into a timeline, Sandra Bullock has a curse on her that whatever man she marries or loves gets killed. She gets married, her husband dies. She wants to bring him back, and the two old biddies say, no, you can't do that. Meanwhile, Nicole Kidman is with some crazy bad boy. They kill him. They instantly like, well, we'll bring him back. Like, well, what happened to Sandra Bullock's husband? Why don't you bring him back? So the
Dude,
movie kind of starts and restarts a couple of times.
it's like they wrote it and they were just like, I'm too lazy to go back and like just delete these scenes that we don't need anymore. So what if we just keep them? what if we just keep them, man? And it'll still work, you know? Because they do like kind of set things up to go a certain way and then tell you, no, 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 we can't do that. And then in the very
Yeah,
next scene, they have the exact
they
same
do the
problem
exact same
and
thing.
they do the opposite where they're like, oh yeah, we'll just bring them back to life. So my issue, we can just get into it. Like for the kidnapping scene, so this guy fucking grabs Nicole Kidman and rips her into the back seat and like has his hand on her throat and says like to Sandra Bullock, drive. And they get
Right.
in the car and they start driving. And at one point he starts like lighting his ring. He's about to like brand Nicole Kidman with
Right.
his ring or
It's a
whatever.
creepy,
And
like uncomfortable scene.
yeah, he's like being a total serial killer. And then they end up killing him, you know? Like we were trying to put him to sleep and whoops, we accidentally killed him, you know? Like, and they're like, now we're the criminals. Like we have to throw him away. It's like, no, you don't. Like
Yeah.
he
He had him
kidnapped
at
you. Like
gunpoint. Yeah.
that's self-defense. You can just tell the cops like, oh, we poisoned him because he was gonna kill us, you know, like in no world do they have to cover anything up. So the fact that they didn't like even think that they were innocent like was just weird to me. I was like, it's not how it works, you know? And then
Right.
so they bring him back to life, whatever. They do the spell, and then remember his eyes open or whatever. Then they bury him. Then they put him in the
Right.
grave and bury him. Like, why did they bring him back to life?
They bury him in their front yard.
It doesn't, and then he like starts growing, like all these plants start coming out. Like all of it was just like to me, I was just like, I don't understand what's happening right now. Like they brought him back to life just so they could bury him again. They don't even need to do any of this because it was self-defense. He kidnapped them. and then like it just all added up for me, and I had to just wash my hands of the whole thing. I was like, this movie sucks. I don't
Yeah.
like Practical Magic. But
The scene, yeah, where he's lighting his ring on fire and he's gonna like touch her skin with it and he's choking her. That was the only reason in the gratuitous score I gave it a 4, was because
oh,
that scene was like so uncomfortable. He's choking him in the car. He's
mhm,
like holding him at gunpoint. I was like, that's the only reason I give this a gratuitous score of 4, because that was so weird,
yeah.
of this dude with a weird like French accent or something. I
Yeah, right.
for my logic issues, number one, they're supposed to be sisters. They don't look anything like each other. One has brown hair, one has red hair,
Yes.
different skin tones. And then, of course, they couldn't bring Sandra Bullock's husband back, but they were like more than willing to bring back Nicole Kidman's creepy boyfriend back in 2 seconds. And then the whole town is ostracizing them because they know they're witches. And they're like, oh, stay away from them. Keep your kids away from them. And then they call the whole town. They're like, you want to be in our coven to cast this spell? And everybody's down. Everybody's like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it.
No,
I was like, you
what?
hated them 2 seconds ago.
Right.
And all these
Also,
chicks come to their house to cast spells and they're like having the greatest time ever. Like, what world is this existing in? Can someone please explain? Are we in
yeah, it just
reality or not? Because just so I can
exists
move
in
on.
this stupid 90s world of just like
Just go
witchcraft
with
is
it world.
real, you know, like it's no different than like a pumpkin scented candle that you can buy at Bath and Body. Like it just feels very stupid, man. It's like everyone like they're just witches. They're just like these 90s witches that just like run around town or whatever and like put spells on people, and like everybody knows they're witches and accepts their witchcraft or whatever and just kind of treats it like this little joke or whatever, you know?
Right.
Like in what could you imagine if that was real and there was like a family that could put spells on people, like, and the worst thing that happened was like you just kind of scoffed at them in the street? They would be the scariest people in town, man. No
That
one
makes
would,
sense.
people would
Yeah.
run them out of town. They would be like, we don't want you here ever, you know? And instead they're just wearing jeans that like, you know, like they all shop at the Gap together even though they're
Shopping.
witches. Like
Yep.
it's just
Sandra
dumb.
Bullock has
So
kids.
it's kind of like I wish that they would have made like a kids movie instead of like an adult movie about it. It's very like it just feels like a kids movie. It's weird that adults would like that.
Yeah, it's kind of insulting to your logic because you're like, what?
Yeah, it is
It's
insulting.
got
Yeah.
it's the same argument you could make with Teen Wolf, where the guy
Mhm.
turns into a wolf and the whole town is just like, we'll see you at school on Monday. Oh,
Right.
good game. And they just sort of accept that this guy can turn into a wolf man back and
True.
forth, but yet they carry on with their day. Here's a review from a critic. Practical magic, in other words, is anything but magical. The only spell it casts will put you right to sleep.
Oh, well
here's
done.
here's my biggest question with practical magic. Sandra Bullock is in Practical Magic. She's coming off of Speed 2, Hope Floats. She does Practical Magic, then Forces of Nature, 28 Days, and then 2 years later, Miss Congeniality. Those are a lot of bombs of movies. I'm not quite sure how Sandra Bullock pulls out of this tailspin. She's in these horrendous movies, and yet now she's the biggest movie star ever.
Well, what did she do after Practical Magic?
Forces of Nature and 28 Days. Two
Hmm.
duds also. And then Miss
What
Congeniality, which
year
was a
did
big hit.
28 Days come out?
That would have been 99, a year later.
Oh, damn. You know, because there was a Sandra Bullock lull where she disappeared, you know? Because
Mhm.
remember, she came back out in The Blind Side in like 2008 or whatever. And
Right?
everyone was like, she's back. Like, she's back. Like, that could have kicked off a hibernation for her where she just tanked and like every movie she made was shit. And they were like,
Yeah.
you need to go take a break because I don't think she did anything after that until The Blind Side when she made a little comeback.
Yeah, it's a
You
weird
know?
movie timeline. Miss Congeniality was a big hit for comedy, but these
Mhm.
are a lot of duds
Yeah.
coming in. The weird that she's still getting good roles and she's in all of them. But
Mhm.
yeah, the Sandra Bullock narrative could have gone a very different way.
Dude, I feel bad for her too because she was with that biker dude Jesse James, and
Right.
then
Jesse, add Jesse
he was
James to this
he was
timeline too.
cheating on her, dude, and he had his movie about, or he had his TV show like about like hogs and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
then like
yeah.
you found out he was having an affair and everything, and like kind of in the back of your head, you were like, of course he was having an affair. Like this
Yeah.
douchebag with his fucking sideburns and wraparound shades. Like,
How could
come
this have gone
on,
any
like
other way?
yeah, so that comes out, and like you feel bad for Sandra Bullock. You're like, I have like a lot of sympathy. Like this poor, like she was that douchebag did her so wrong. So like a lot of things went wrong for her. I feel like
Maybe
I'm glad that
America
like the
just
Blind Side like kind of kicked her back alive a little bit.
maybe America just loves Sandra Bullock no matter what. Whatever
She is
she's in, we're gonna give it the time of day and at least check it out.
she fits that weird role of like a Julia Roberts where like she just represents the time so well. Like she is the 90s. Like that Sandra Bullock and her butt chin and everything, like that's like very, very 90s like feeling to me. Her
Yeah,
laugh,
for
the smiling and like just all of that like cutesy stuff like is very it feels very pre 9/11.
that's true. As bad as this movie is, Sandra Bullock, you don't hate her in this movie.
No way. Yeah,
Yeah,
no way.
that's true.
She's not
It's not like I
hateable. Yeah.
didn't. Nicole Kidman's a little annoying in it, but Sandra
Mhm.
Bullock, you don't really hate her in this movie.
No,
Here's
no, no. She's a good actor. I like her like as like an actor and her style and look and everything, but she just those movies suck. And she's in
here's
a lot of
the
them.
here's the Nicole Kidman timeline: Batman Forever, The Peacemaker, Practical Magic, Eyes Wide Shut, Moulin Rouge. So she pulls out of the tailspin a little quicker with Eyes Wide Shut
She
and
goes
Moulin Rouge.
she kind of pulls a 180 and goes full artsy after this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Eyes Wide Shut is probably arguably I mean like one of the most artsy movies to come out like in that time. It's like the Stanley Kubrick movie where he died before he finished editing it.
Mhm.
So they just kind of like putted it in for him. And then she does Moulin Rouge, which is like a really cool like play movie style thing. So she does, she
That was a
really does a
hit.
better job of getting out of that slump, I feel like.
Also
She
with
injects some life into that career after that.
Yeah, she comes back with some big hits there. Also, one note from Practical Magic, it's like Sandra Bullock is sort of the girl next door sister, and then Nicole Kidman's the like promiscuous slutty one. Like, why
Right.
not have? And then she even says in the PTA meeting, she's like, "Lock up your husbands, ladies." I needed one scene where
Right.
she's like slutting it up, and we need to see her
Mhm.
going for it. Otherwise, we're just sort of like believing that she just flirts and stuff.
That's
I was
like
like,
the
I need
whole
her to slut
90s
it up.
thing is like it's like you're not even proving to me that she's slutty right now. Like
Yeah, it was all
she's
talk.
why you gotta slut shame someone who just hooks up with like 3 dudes a year, it seems like. Like
Mhm.
doesn't seem like she's living that crazy of a lifestyle.
Nah, she was just hanging
She's like
out.
with the same boyfriend she was with like earlier in the movie, later in the movie.
Yeah.
She's
I
not like
needed
sleeping
her
around really. But
not re
dude,
yeah.
it's fucked up though, man, because that was like that era where like sleeping with 3 people a year was like, oh, really slutty. Like, oh, what a slut. Like she slept with 3 dudes in 1998. Like,
Maybe it's 1998 slut.
but the rules were a little different, I feel like.
I
Like,
feel like a scene where she's at Mardi Gras flashing her tits would have been enough for me to be like, "Oh yeah,
oh
party girl."
yeah.
That
They
would have
don't
been good.
Yes. Or like there could have been some really cool scenes where she like lures a bunch of dudes to her house thinking they're all gonna have like a threesome or something. And then like she ends up putting a spell on them where like she plays tricks on guys and stuff like that. Like they
Oh,
could do so many cool things to like show how she's kind of slutty and like quirky and stuff. And instead, like they just skip all the fun and games there. And
yeah, one
they just like
scene. Give
shove
us
it down
one.
your throat like, oh, just believe it. Like you don't even get to see it. Like we're just gonna make you like buy this character that like doesn't feel real at all. It was so
A
dumb,
lot of
man. I didn't like it.
a
How
lot
about
of
his
issues.
death scene too? Another spoiler alert, who cares? When her husband gets hit by the truck
Oh
and
yeah, that's right. Sandra Bullock's husband.
it's just the apples that are just falling in the road. It's like you can't even show me a mannequin getting smashed by a truck right now. Like you're gonna
That's
do me
true.
like that. You're gonna make me watch these apples fall. Like there's nothing fun in that movie. It's like you don't even get to see the stuff you want to see, really. So
They do the classic movie technique where he's crossing the street and he avoids a bunch of guys on bikes. He's in the middle of the street and they're like, whoa, 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 watch out. And he avoids them and he's like, woo. And then he turns his back and a huge truck is on top of him. Like you don't
Right.
think you would hear the truck coming?
Yeah.
You don't think
No
the truck would honk its
shit.
horn?
Yeah. Presumably this truck has been behind these bikers for the last 3 miles on this two-way highway that like runs through a tiny town. It's like, why would he be going that fast? You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. It's
Did
dumb
not
as
make
hell.
sense, that guy's death scene.
And then that's an example of like the tone shift that doesn't make any sense to me. Is like that scene like follows like a Shania Twain song where like everything's going really well, and then like he's walking with his apples or whatever, and then he just gets hit by a truck. Like it seems like an Adam Sandler movie kind of. Like
Mhm.
it's real.
It's almost a
jokey.
comical death.
It's really jokey. Yeah. So I didn't even know if it was supposed to be a joke when I was watching it. And then you see how sad she is. And instead of cutting to the hospital, like the next scene is her running back home or something like that. And like just like yelling at her yelling at her parents for like putting a spell on him or something like that.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
so bad, man. I didn't know how to feel. I was like, what movie is this? Is this a comedy? Is this a horror movie? Like, is this supposed to be suspense? Like, it was too much. I felt like stretched way too thin, man.
It was a mess. There's too much going on. No nudity from the slutty sister.
Yeah, there's just lots of
Not even
like
scary.
crop tops and
A lot
90s,
of crop tops. Yeah, 90s crop
90s
tops.
skin, you know, very
Mhm.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah, it missed the mark.
It's got
Funny.
It's got Riz from Grease in it. Rizzo.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That one
Stockard
actress
Channing.
that plays Rizzo. She's pretty good in it.
Yeah, there's names in it. It just misses the mark in every aspect.
Yeah. You know what though? I bet the soundtrack did really well.
The music. I'll give the music.
I bet the
looks
soundtrack
good.
performed because that's like when the era when people bought a lot of CDs from FYE and stuff like that. I bet that people bought that soundtrack. That was a good
True.
list of songs they had.
Great use of songs. That's true.
Mhm.
Well, that does it for this edition of the Halloween episode of Running It Back, The Bad Practical Magic. You know, the songs were good. Let's give it its due credit. Great music soundtrack to it. Makes you really want to rock out to some 90s chick rock. Give it a thumbs up for that. At least, will ya? Will ya? The part 3 and final installment of Running Back Halloween Edition comes out next. The 80s. What's it gonna be? Stick around, find out.